What if art history is not just about old paintings and museums, but one of the main forces shaping how we dress, design, advertise, and even think today? When people hear art history, they often picture dusty textbooks and quiet gallery rooms. But the truth is much more alive than that. Art history is basically the record of how humans have tried to make meaning visible, and those decisions still echo everywhere. In this video, we are looking at 5 insightful angles on how art history shapes culture, and more importantly, why that actually matters in everyday life. First, art history gives us a visual language. Styles like Renaissance realism, Baroque drama, minimalism, or pop art did not just stay in their own era. They became tools that people still borrow from today. Think about modern branding. A luxury fashion campaign might use dark backgrounds, dramatic lighting, and classical poses to feel timeless and powerful. That is not random. It borrows from centuries of portraiture and religious painting where light, composition, and posture signaled importance. Why is this useful? Because once you recognize the visual language, you start understanding what images are trying to make you feel. That is powerful in advertising, design, and media literacy. Second, art history shows what a culture values. If a society paints rulers larger than everyone else, like in ancient Egyptian art, that says something. If another era paints ordinary people with dignity, like in Dutch genre painting, that says something else. Art becomes a mirror of power, class, religion, technology, and identity. A concrete example. During the Industrial Revolution, art began showing factories, workers, and urban life more often. That shift tells us the world was changing, not just economically, but emotionally and socially. This matters because art history helps us read culture like a map. It teaches you to ask, who is being centered, who is being left out, and why? Third, old art keeps fueling new creativity. A lot of new ideas are actually reinterpretations of older ones. Contemporary photographers use Renaissance-style symmetry. Film directors use composition inspired by classical painting. Even music videos and video games borrow from surrealism, futurism, and cubism to create a distinct mood. For example, if you are making content like thumbnails, videos, presentations, or social posts, you can use art history as a reference library. Want something calm? Look at Japanese minimalism or Scandinavian design. Want something intense? Look at Baroque contrast and movement. Want something rebellious? Pop art has your back. This is useful because it gives you a toolkit. You do not have to invent visual impact from scratch. Fourth, art history shapes how identity is represented. For a long time, art mostly reflected the tastes of the powerful. But over time, artists began challenging that, showing different races, genders, classes, and perspectives that had been ignored. That is why art history is not just about style. It is about visibility. When artists reclaim portraiture, rewrite myths, or reinterpret historical imagery, they are changing the cultural conversation, and that affects how communities see themselves. Practical example. If you are studying visual culture, you can use art history to spot stereotypes in modern media and compare them with older traditions. That helps you think more critically about representation in ads, films, and social platforms. Finally, art history changes the way we experience everyday life. Once you know where certain forms come from, you start noticing them everywhere. In architecture, fashion, emojis, album covers, product design, and even the layout of websites. A simple example. Museums and churches often use symmetry and scale to create awe. Modern companies use the same principles in flagship stores and landing pages. They are guiding attention, emotion, and behavior using ideas shaped long ago. That is the real value of art history. It trains your eye, and when your eye gets sharper, your thinking gets sharper too. You become harder to manipulate, better at creating, and more aware of the culture around you. So art history is not just about the past. It is one of the hidden systems shaping the present. It gives us a visual language, reveals what societies value, feeds modern creativity, shapes identity, and changes how we interpret the world. The next time you see a poster, a film scene, a logo, or even a room design, ask yourself, what history is this borrowing from? Because once you start noticing that, culture gets a lot more interesting. How art history shapes culture. 5 insightful angles is just one small part of art history. If you are interested, our full free art history course is linked in the description.